record. Okay, awesome. Yes, yes, thank you. All right, so a comparable market analysis is what we do as real estate professionals in order to determine value. And at the end of the day, it's an opinion of what we think we can sell the property, right? At the end of the day, can the seller dictate or determine whatever they want to put the property on the market for? The answer is yeah. But the question here is the property going to sell, right? That's really the question, right? Because in the eyes of the seller may think my house is worth $5 million, but when we run numbers, the property is actually $3 million, right? Maybe it's unique, maybe it's a little different than the traditional homes in the area, but at the end, it's based on data. Now, today session is we're going to dive into doing a cloud CMA. And the beautiful part of it is the platform does most of the heavy lifting for you. We just need to plug in some numbers, and then ultimately the system will do the actual report for you. Yes, you may have to add and edit certain things, but at the end, the platform does what it needs to do, which creates these beautiful reports when you go on the listing appointment. Now, why a CMA, right? We have one of the biggest platforms, right, which is the MLS, Multiple Listing Service. And what it does, it provides intel data of what's happening in the marketplace, right? As long as you have a physical address, you know the characteristics of the home, now you can start creating comparables, right? Apples to apples, right? The essence is I'm going to share how I navigate to get an opinion of value. Because at the end, if it's three agents or even three appraisers, they're going to run their numbers, and I can promise you that all three are going to have different values. They're not going to be concise. They may be close, but it may not be concise, right? It's not like, yeah, this home is 800,000, and then the second person says, yeah, 800,000, because it's based on many factors. Okay, information that you pull from the MLS, right, and you look at a couple elements, right? What's active, what's active under contract, what's pending, and what has sold in the last 90 days will give you a good indicator of where you need to be. Now, I said apples to apples. You got to also look at those factors. Is if a house is 1,500 square feet, you cannot compare that to a 2,500 home, right? It's just not the same. But a home in around that 1,500, then yes, you can use it as part of your comps, right? So we're going to share avenues and strategies and how we navigate this through the MLS. So what I do first and foremost is let's just use a address, right? And the address that I'm going to use is an address here in the city of Torrance, okay? So what I like to do is I usually go first to Realtors Property Resources. I click on that, and that takes me to this platform here. And then I type in the address. So 23016, one second, 23016. Okay, and it gives me the address here, right? 23 Avalon Avenue, City of Torrance, California, 90505. I click on that. Now it's going to generate the report, okay? It gives me kind of a general information. It tells me that it's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,101 square feet on a 5,100 lot size. Now, it also gives me an opinion of value. This is a generated comp, okay? But it's not the comp that I'm going to use, right? But it gives me a good indicator of where I need to be. And if you look here, it also gives you an estimate range as well, between 1 and 1.2. Now, we haven't physically looked at the property, right? So we still need to look at the home. We don't know what upgrades, what amenities, what they've done to the property. Did they upgrade the garage? Did they upgrade the roof? Did they remodel the kitchen? There's still a lot of things that we don't know until we physically look at the home, right? But we want to get a base, right? So now that I have this information, now I can do the heavy lifting and now go through the motions of doing a comparable market analysis, because the goal is for me to meet with the sellers, go on a listing appointment, provide the sellers with all of the information of where we think we should list this property, and give me the opportunity to list, right? That's the goal, right? So we have an executed listing agreement. But when you're navigating that is, your presentation, your understanding of the market, and, the comps that you pull as well. So what I do from here is I highlight the subject property address, and then I go to the next part, right? I go to the actual MLS, okay? And here's Cloud CMA, but that's the last thing that I go, okay? I want to kind of get a base and an understanding before I start creating a Cloud CMA. Then I go to the matrix section. I let that go, and it takes you to CRMLS, right? Then from here, I go to search. Because I know it's a single family residence, I go to residential, then I go down to where it says CMA. I click on that. Okay. Now you want to make sure that it says CMA here. Now you have prompts. Okay. And these are basic prompts. What I like to do is I want to get as much intel and data so that way I know how to navigate this. I go to coming soon, active, under contract, pending, and close. Now, default's already to 180 days. I don't want to go 180 days, so I want to see what has happened in the last 90 days. Okay? I want to see what's happening in the last 90 days. Then I go down here and then I do on the subject type, I put single family residence, SFR. Then I go where it says the map area, and then I copy and paste the address, and it populates the address here. Then I click on it. Okay. Now it tells me that there is 37 matches. Okay. Regarding the subject property. Okay. Within a mile radius. Now remember, I want to keep it very concise and very tight. So what I'll do is I won't even do a mile radius. I'll do half a mile radius. It's preference, right? If there's not a lot of comms, then you may have to go a mile and maybe a mile and a half. But if there's a lot of comms, 37 matches is a lot of comms, right? And you can kind of play and kind of get a gauge on it. But remember, it's just an opinion of value. So doing half a mile, it provides me with 15. That's reasonable, right? There's more than enough activity that I can now get a true indicator of what the market is dictating in this specific area. Remember, I did coming soon, active, under contract, pending, and close in the last 90 days. I put in the address. I did half a mile radius, right? So it already identifies. So there's no need for me to put the city, no need for me to put the county because it's already pinpointed the address. We don't have to put price because that's irrelevant for now. You could if you wanted to, because let's go back to the actual property and it says it's a 3-bedroom, right? So if it's a 3-bedroom, then I'll put here 3 bedrooms minus. So what I want to find out is any properties in the surrounding area that are 3 bedrooms or less, not 3 bedrooms or more, right? Because remember, apples to apples. You got to match certain characteristics to the home to use that as a solid comparable, right? Does that make sense? So I'll do 3 minus, and I'll put a little minus so it'll pick up any properties that are 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, or 1 bedrooms. There may be houses that may have just 1 bedroom, you know. So it now, if you look at the bottom, it only has 7. Okay. If I was to remove this, it now has 15. So that means that 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 8 properties have more bedrooms than 3 bedrooms, right? So again, it's not a good comparable. So now I do that. Now, when it comes to living area, that's the square footage, right? Now, if we go back to the actual profile, the profile shows it's about 1100. Okay. 1100. You minus or take away. I say anything, 100 square feet above or 100 square feet below is kind of the range, right? So I would try to find properties that are around 1200 or less, right? Because you cannot compare a house that is 2500 to a 2100 square feet, right? Or 1100, I should say. So in essence, again, going back to the apples to apples. Now, based on the photo here, I mean, it's a small house, and but it's in a great neighborhood, right? So now that I know the square footage, I go back. I can say, look, I want to find properties that are 1200 or less. Guess what happens? Only one match. Okay, one match. So in essence, I might not put that on here and just leave it blank because I want to see what activities they are. Because remember, it's just an opinion of value, right? They may have the most beautiful home, right? That will dictate a higher price point because people are willing to pay a little bit more for a home that is completely upgraded, right? So square footage may not be a big factor here. So I'm going to leave the square footage alone, and that still gives us 7 matching properties, right? So now I go to results. And when I go to results, it gives this information now. Okay. So when you look at it, these are the 7 properties that meet the criteria of this particular property that we're trying to get an idea of value. Okay. I'll typically go to the map and then I'll kind of check out the map and get a scope of what that looks like. This little red dot is the subject property. Okay. These are all of the properties, okay, that are within a half a mile of the subject property. Okay. So in essence, these are good comps, right? Because they all meet the criteria of where we need to possibly be when it comes to an evaluation. And again, I want to stress and I want to emphasize that it's an opinion of value, okay? It's not set in stone. Now, the alternative is that the seller can obviously hire a licensed appraiser to go out and do an appraisal report, right? But there's a cost. The cool thing about us, they use the same platforms, but we do it as a complementary with the goal of getting a listing out of it, right? But the seller has every discretion to hire an independent appraisal and get an evaluation, right? But I think when you do more and more comparable market analysis, you get better at it. You know how to tighten up, you kind of modify, you add, you tweak, you adjust, and then ultimately you prepare what's called an opinion of value, right? So now that we know most of the properties are north of Lomita, and then there's 2 properties south of Lomita, right? Now, the reason I did half a mile radius is because when you go too broad, you may be hitting different cities, especially like city of Torrance. It's really close and adjacent to Redondo Beach. You're in the northern part of Torrance. You may be adjacent to Lawndale or Redondo Beach as well, right? Depending on the area. So, if you do end up crossing over, the price points may be significantly higher or lower. Okay. Now, can you use other cities' comps to determine the comp of your neighborhood? The answer is no. You got different school districts, different jurisdictions. Sometimes it may be county versus city, right? Police over the sheriffs, as an example, right? Evaluations may be altered from one street to the other. Okay. Or one street is Redondo, and then the next street is Torrance. Different price points, right? So you cannot utilize, well, Simon, it's within that half a mile or mile radius of the subject property. I thought that anything around that is a good comp. I get it. But again, how many times have you driven in a neighborhood and it automatically changes neighborhood because it's a different city, right? Price points also change. So no, you cannot use a neighboring city to use that as an evaluation. You have to stay within the same city. Remember, apples to apples. Make sense? Okay. All right. So now that I have this information here, then I go back to the results. Okay. Now, all of them are within the city of Torrance, which is good. All of them are within the area 129, which is good. And all of them are 3 bedrooms or less, right? Which in this case, they're all good. Square footage, again, within the proximity. The only one that is not is this one right here, 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 and then this one. And then the rest are over, right? So, here, question. Wait a minute, Simon. The property's under 1,200 square feet. Okay. None of this but one property is under 1,200. All of the rest of them are 18, 14, 13, 19, 14, 1,700 square feet. This one here is probably the closest comp, and this one is currently sold, and it sold for more than what it was originally listed. It was originally listed for $799, and they ended up closing at $900,000. Big jump, right? That's almost $100,000. 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. Okay, square footage. Now the lot size. Let's look at the lot that we have. This one is 5,100, right? The one that sold for 900 is 65. So this lot is even bigger as well, right? So pros and cons adjustments as we go through this, right? Now, I also look at days on market and cumulative days on market. That's important to know because when you're educating the seller and asking the relevance of what's happening in the neighborhood, numbers do not lie. Data does not lie because this is kind of painting the picture, right? So when I'm talking to the seller, I'm giving true data. This one here sold in 10 days, this one in 63 days. Or I should say this one's pending for 10 days. The rest of them sold in 63, 99, 63, 14, 7, and 37 days. Okay. Which is kind of the norm, right? The dates that it closed, right? All within 90 days. Okay. January, November, December, January, and December. When an appraisal evaluates a home, this is exactly the information that they pull as well. They look at what's happening in the neighborhood. Now, again, I want to stress and emphasize this is just an opinion of value, right? The seller can put the property at whatever they want, right? A for sale by owner is an example, right? If they're a for sale by owner, they feel, well, based on what I see in the neighborhood, my home is worth $2 million, right? And they can put it on the market for $2 million. We cannot stop them. But it's probably not going to sell. One, it's not going to appraise. Two, a buyer will not want to pay premium for a house, right? Because there's another house around the corner that they can buy for a lot cheaper and it has the same or more amenities, right? So this property will end up just staying on the market for a very long time. This is where we bring down the seller's expectations, realizing, look, we want to sell your home, right? But in order for us to sell your home, you have to price the home in accordance to what the area is selling for, right? And the area is not selling for $2 million. It's selling for this. So in essence, when you're navigating this, now you get a good, concise understanding of where we need to be. Because if this one that is the most close in proximity and con sold for 900,000, and all of the rest of them sold for a lot higher, and their square footage is a lot bigger, then you've got to kind of navigate where should be a good starting point, right? Because in essence, you know that the house is not worth 1.6 because this is almost 2,000 square feet. The more square footage you have, right, the more likelihood it will give you the comparable cost involved, what we call price per square foot. So if I was to check all of these properties and do a full report on it, now I want to see, what the price per square feet is. And how you do that is basically this number here, where it says price per square foot. Okay. So based on a 1.250 that is currently pending, and we don't even know if it's going to close at 1.2. It may close for more, or it may close for less, or it may close at 1.250. The essence of this is that this particular property is selling for $733 per square foot. Meaning if you do the arithmetic on this, based on the square footage, will give you this number. Okay. You add this number, you times it by 1704, that should give you the price point, right? Let's take a look at the next property, okay? Because this one is pending in that neighborhood, okay? Somewhat kind of a nice curb appeal, okay? Then I start looking at the photos and what that looks like, right? Because I want to get an idea of what I can list the property that we're going to put on the market, or the goal to get the listing and put it on the market. Okay. Kitchen looks fairly nice. A lot of natural lighting, right? But in essence, I'm just trying to get an idea, right, of where I will start putting my evaluation. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the next property. This one is in Anza. Okay, this one is kind of similar to our property. Okay, let's take a look at this condition. All right. Floors, little dated. Kitchen a little dated. Okay. Nothing spectacular about this property. But imagine if this property was really upgraded, right? You think they would have probably got more than 900,000? Probably. Because remember, they're buying the neighborhood. All right, so this one sold for 900. They originally had it listed for a lot less, I believe. This was a probate. Okay. Here's another property. 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, 1,400 square feet on the 4,000. Now, remember, our lot is 5,000. This one is 49. This one is 14.9 square feet, which is ours is just shy of 1,200. So this one has a smaller lot, right? Smaller lot, whereas this house has a bigger square footage. So the advantage of having a bigger lot is what? You can add more square footage. So if you're looking at it from a long game, the property in question that we want to list, there's room to expand. So that's how you sell the potential buyer, is that if you add square footage, your home is going to be worth more money based on the trend of this neighborhood, right? So just the little tweaks, adding another 200 square feet will give you a 1.3, right? So you're kind of navigating the conversations when it comes to this. Let's look at the next one. This one was listed for 1475 and ultimately sold for 1425, a drop. It originally listed for 1550, and then they did a price reduction, and then a final closed at 1425, 63 days on market. Let's take a quick look at the condition of this property. Okay. Just to get an idea, vacant, decent home. Looks like kind of updated. Okay. So not too bad, but now this is 1,900 square feet. The lot size is kind of similar to our lot size, right? So you imagine ours has that potential to add more square footage, about 500 square feet into the property, right? All right, let's continue to the fifth property. This one was 1389 and ultimately sold at 1435. 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, 1,365 square feet, 53, 30, or 5131. It was the lot size. This is about 1,051 per square feet. 14 days on the market. Let's look at the overall condition. It looks a little upgraded. It looks like they took all the photos, so it's only one photo, but it looks pretty clean. I can tell you that this is probably updated, and they went in there and renovated the property. Okay. Okay, so let's go to the sixth property. This was listed for 1.6 and ultimately sold at 1.615. 3.2, 1,400. This is obviously a larger lot, but 7 days on the market. Let's take a quick look at this property, kind of get an idea. Nothing fancy. Looks like it has popcorn ceiling. Kitchen is very dated. Obviously, the carpet looks pretty old. Yeah, there's nothing spectacular about this property, but it still bared a 1.6. So someone bought this place and saw the value of it based on the characteristics. Okay. Now there's nothing that we can do on lot size, right? Because this is obviously almost 9,000 square lot, where ours is just shy of 5,200 square lot. But this property merit a higher price point. Let's look at the last and final property. This one, 1639, and it ultimately sold for 1620, which is a price reduction, right? Let's take a quick look at this and kind of get an idea. It looks like it's a renovated property. Yeah, you can tell that they went in there, did the floors, recessed lighting, upgraded kitchen. So, yeah, beautiful. They have an island. Yeah, so it's a beautiful home, beautiful home. So, yeah, of course, a consumer is going to pay premium and move-in ready condition home, right? Now, the fascinating thing about this is it's almost the same size as our lot size, just it's 1,800 square feet, but looks 1.6. Imagine the property that we're trying to list, which is a 3 bedroom, 1 bath, just shy of 1,200, but the lot is about the same. They added square footage. They may add another bathroom and then maybe expand the square footage. that may merit a price point of 1.6 or even more, right? Because it's still within that same area. All right. So that kind of gives you a ballpark of the information of the area, right? So now when it comes to the determination of value, right? Because that's the essence of our approach is that now that we have this data, you can now go back to the criteria and adjust if you need to see if there's any additional comps, right? And I like to keep my criteria pretty tight because I want to see what's the most close in proximity with everything that's going on with the property. And we don't know what the condition of the property. We're going with the expectation that when we go on a listing appointment and provide this report, that we're going to give the seller a reasonable opinion of value, right? Now, based on all that, remember when we actually went into RPR, it already gave us a figure, right, of 1142, right? But it also gave us a range, right? Yes, we have not seen the property yet, so we don't know what upgrades. We're going with the motion that, we got to play the numbers or what we call fudge the numbers once we get an idea of what the condition is, because we don't know, does it have solar panels? That the owner did any renovations to the bathrooms, the kitchen, that he or they upgrade the windows. There's many variables here, right, that will ultimately push the value or not. If the property on the surface looks nice, but on the inside looks really bad, well, that may dip also the opinion of value, right? So now the essence is that we have this information. What's the next steps, right? So this is where you can now go into your CMA report, right? And I'm going to step one step back and go back here. I know all of us have our different platform. I use PWR, but a lot of us use South Bay or whatever MLS, but it's still the same thing. You can still get the information. Then here you go to Cloud CMA. Okay, takes you to this section here, Cloud CMA. You're going to create a new report. You click on that and it gives you options. You can do a CMA, you can do a buyer tour, you can do a property report, you can do a presentation, or you can even do flyers. We're going to do a CMA. And then you reference that particular property, right? So whatever you want to call it, you're going to put it. I type in the address, it populates the information, it'll pull the data from the system, and it'll provide you with at least some of the characteristics to the property, right? It already does it. Okay. Now you can reference this as Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner. Okay. You can put private notes for references. Okay. And then it takes you to the bottom. You can also, if you've taken a photo of the property, you can add a photo here for the actual presentation report, right? It gives you different prompts, what type of property it is. So it has all of these sectors. So single family residence. It's a 3 bedrooms. Okay. Let's just say it's a 1 bath. Okay. The next, it says, how do you want this comparable listing, right? Quick and dirty, or if you have specific MLS IDs. Well, if we go back to our results, right, and we look at some of this stuff, we can pull all this information, but it would not do justice because all of these homes sold for a lot more, right? And the reason that he sold more is because it's a little bit bigger. The only one that can justify that one would be this low one for 900,000, right? So how do you determine where you need to be, right? Based on what you have. Remember, everything is a gamble, right? But you always want to be conservative in how you do your comps and lean towards a lower amount with the expectations that it gives you a frenzy of activity, because when they see a property that is low around other properties that are a little higher, people are curious and they will submit offers, right? So a lot of agents do this strategy is by listing it at low with the intent of getting multiple offers, with the results of getting a higher price point. As you can see in some of these properties, they listed it for low and ultimately got more money. Like this one for 900,000, they started low but ultimately closed and got 900,000. Now, in essence, there has to be a sweet number, right? Now, just because these numbers are somewhat all over the place, and then the square footage also plays a big factor here, which one would be ideal, right? Well, I probably would choose the lower numbers, right? So I would do that one. I would obviously do the 900 one as a good price point. And I would probably do the ones that are closer in proximity when it comes to square footage. I would discount the 1800. I would probably discount the 1900. I would probably discount the 1500. Okay. I would probably discount the 1473, and I would probably discount the 17, but you know, the, um, I would keep the one that's 900 and the ones that are in proximity of square footage, right, as part of it when I'm doing my CMA. Now, you can copy and paste, you can copy and paste, or you can ultimately from here go to Cloud CMA and it'll populate it. I kind of went a shortcut, but it'll also populate it from here as well. And again, typing in the address, okay, 1 bedroom. As you can see, it already pulled the information from the data, so you don't have to worry about that, right? Here, again, you just put Mr. and Mrs. homeowner, private message, where do you pull the information from? Okay. We already said the type of sub category, which is a single family. It pulled some information. But if you look also here, it gives you the option either or, right? So you can do your own comps and pull your own data and input it in here, or the system can do it itself, right? Based on certain criteria. So if we do this section here, automatically find listings near the subject property, right? Get me at least 10 listings, 20 listings or more. 10 it should be more than enough. Only go back 6 months. Okay. I would say go back 3 months. I want you to see the comparisons because, again, we don't have that many comps to justify our position, right? Then we click on the fetching, right? Now it's going to pull whatever data it has. And now it gives you this organized listing platform. Okay. It still provides you where you can put your opinion of where you think you need to be. You can put a set price here, right? Now it shows on the summary that there's one active, three pending, five sold, and one that's currently hold. Okay. And as you can see, it's kind of what we talked about earlier, 900, 14, and then 1690, right? All within approximately around the subject property. Okay. Gives you kind of an idea, right? Now, all of this is pulled from the MLS. Now, the beautiful thing is you can also take out Okay. You can take out certain ones that you think, that's not a good comp. That's not a good comp. That's not a good comp. Okay. That may be a good comp. That may not be because it's 1,700 square feet. Okay, that may not be a good comp. So again, just based on the characteristics, there's not really that much, right? Let's see this one for 1.2. And that might be, but I like that price point. For some reason, that number 1,275 seems to be an ideal number. So maybe I'll leave it there and kind of get an idea. So now that I generated what I needed to, you can add listings as well if there's additional stuff, or you can just cancel that section. And now you can customize the report. You click on that, and now it takes you to your actual report. Now, here, there's a lot of things that you can do based on the theme, the layout, the template, the cover, the fonts, and all that fun stuff. You can add or take, you can add your own personal resume if you want to. You can add any online evaluation, move-in checklist, so on and so forth. But this kind of gives you a parameter of what that looks like, right? You can make it as detailed as you want, or you can do it just as concise as you want. That's up to you, right? Every listing is unique in itself, right? You might be dealing with a very analytical client that wants, data and information, or you may have someone is, look, you know what? I just need you to help me sell the home. I trust in your opinion of value. This is where we need to be, right? So it all really depends. Once you gathered all of the information and you're okay with everything, then you can then go where it says publish report. You click on that, and now it's going to create the actual report. Takes a few minutes, but you can also do a copy PDF link. You can do a copy live ink, or you can email the report. So now I created a CMA, okay, for the homeowners on this particular property. Okay. So now with that, I can click on view PDF. And here you go. This is the comparable market analysis that you just created to provide. You can really cater to your clients. Obviously, you want to get their information. So all you do when you go back, you go here, you look, it looks like it's on a truss, right? But if you're in dialogue with the client, then I would encourage you obviously get their information, their name. So when you create this report, it's more personable to them, right? It's Mr. John Smith and Mrs. Linda Smith as an example, right? So in essence, um, now you created this report. It's obviously your information. It all of this information is already embedded here. You don't have to do anything. It's already done. It puts in the date. It says, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, I appreciate the opportunity to share my business plan with you." Goes into a little bit. And the beautiful thing is you can create your own information as well. Okay. If you have a resume and all this fun stuff, I have not updated mine, but as an example, you can include your personal resume, a little bit of the company. Again, you can modify it, look at our visions and our statements, and then add to it as well. That creates that stickiness, right? That, people want to do business with you. It talks about what is a CMA, the contact information. It also creates a QR code as well. And then you can also include your LinkedIn account as well. So that way they can see that you are truly professional, because people that are on LinkedIn are usually professionals, right? So it'll give you another layer of professionalism that you have. And it goes into the value of your homes. It really just explains the information, right? Then it goes into the map of all the listings. This little purple star is the subject property, right? And then all of the data information that we pulled. It talks about, sold, pending, and actives. If the information pulled, then it goes into the actual summary, right? Apples to apples type of comparison. Then it has these beautiful flyers as well about all of the properties and what they actually are active, under contract, pending, or sold. So all you're just providing is the consumer is data information, right? You print this, you can email it, you can put it into a folder. We have marketing tools here as well where you can put it into a hard copy folder and do this as a presentation as well. And again, just all of the information of everything that you pull, right? And remember, you can modify all of this information as well. The stats, the marketing action plan, it goes into, what the first week should look like, what the second week should look like, what the third week, so on and so forth. Ongoing activities, what you need a real estate professional, why you need a real estate professional, pricing and timing. And the beautiful thing about all this, you can create your own flavor as well. This is just one element of a comparable market analysis that you can utilize. But it goes step by step of everything that the consumer should be knowing of the initial process to get their property on the market, negotiations with the goal of obviously closing the deal. Showing an open house checklist. Okay. Now, for me, there's probably like 80 pages, but I just condense it. But that kind of gives you a nutshell of what that looks like. Now, the cool thing about this also, guys, is that, you can go back to all of your CMAs. And maybe they're not ready just at this moment, but then, in a couple of weeks, they reach out to you. Hey, we misplaced our CMA. Can you, give us another report? You can create a new one, or you can go back to the old one. And the beautiful thing, you can also edit it. So if there's been new activities, you don't have to create all of this extra stuff. You just go into edit, and then okay, whatever MLS you have available, right? You can now update it into the system, and then the system will now update the actual report. So then when you send it out to the sellers, when they're ready to, put the property on the market, they have the most current activity, right? The current stuff that's happening on the MLS. So it keeps all of your stuff pretty much intact. You can also do buyer tours, property presentations, and all that stuff as well. The other cool thing that I like about Cloud CMA, and I'll share with this, is there is this platform here, but I don't recall. I think it might be HomeBeat. No, but that's at a cost. There was another where you can actually, on your email campaign, actually on all of your email signatures, you can copy and paste on your email signatures. And what it does is when you send out an email, it has a link that if anyone wants to get a comparable market analysis, they click on that link, and then it'll take them to this platform. They put in their address, and it'll generate a comparable market analysis report without you ever touching it. You're going to get an alert, and that alert is going to say, hey, so and so just put in their address, and here's the report. So it's a great way to do a follow-up and to thank them. Hey, thank you so much for putting in your information. I got this information. I love the opportunity to discuss the report and see if you're thinking about, selling your home. That's one of the cool things that it provides as part of it. Let's see, lead generation. I think it's under the setting aspect of it. But I would encourage you to play with the system here because there's a lot of great stuff. Here it is. This is it, the lead generation. So it's a landing page that you copy, and it provides you with this site here. Now, the cool thing is all you need is the QR code, put it into either your business card, your email address, and all they have to do is they just put in their address, okay, and they click on that. They just got to put in their information, okay, email the report as an example, and it'll say your report is on the way. You don't have to do anything. It generates the report by itself. You're going to get an email saying, hey, Simon just reached out on your platform, and you and the consumer is going to get a copy of that report. Okay. Now, that report obviously doesn't have all of the information, the work involved, but it's a surface conversation that now you can have with the consumer, thanking them for going in there and putting their information to get an opinion of value. But that gives you an opportunity for a lead to at least go on a listing appointment. Okay. It's a really cool platform, and I would encourage you to check it out. Can you give us an opinion on creating a CMA and a cloud CMA versus a CMA and an RPA? So, good question, Robert. So the essence of the differences is that on the RPA, it's no difference than the cloud CMA. Some people like the cloud CMA report, where others like the RPR one, right? So if you go to RPR as an example, you can go here to the CMA sector. This one gives you also kind of a different element of it as well. It's a different report, but it still does the same thing, right? It's comparing apples to apples, right? But the beautiful thing is there's many ways of doing it. Here's another way that I can show you of doing a CMA that you don't need to use cloud CMA or RPR. You can also go on the MLS as an example, go CMA, and let's just say you're creating a comparable market analysis as an example, right? And you go to and put in the address, okay, and then you do comparables, okay. And let's just say for the sake of time, I click all these as an example. Now you can go here where it says CMA, not cloud, but this CMA here. Click on that. If you have the client's information as an example, right? If you don't, then you can create. But here's another way that you can also create another report as well. Now, this is through, the MLS, which is different than Cloud CMA and then different than RPR. But any of them it's preference at the end of the day, Robert. So if you like the RPA reports, then yeah, by all means, I can definitely have a class just on that. But for the sake of today, this will take me way over the 1 hour. But here's another way that you can also create a market analysis under RPR, and again, it gives you the ability to modify as well, just kind of similar to Cloud CMA. But what I wanted to create, excuse me, was kind of the Cloud CMA report. And the cool thing is, this particular report is very thorough, but you can add or take away from it as well. So I hope that kind of answers your question, Robert.
Straight to Cloud CMA versus going to my matrix? You can.
Good question. So you definitely have to go into the MLS, yeah, first to be able to go to Cloud CMA. But as long as you have the username and password, I think it allows you to go right into Cloud CMA. But I'm not 100% sure. So let's go, because here, as an example, let's say we log off, right? Yeah, see, it takes it. Yeah, so it does take if you have, yeah, you can definitely log into it. But I think this direction, it doesn't recognize that you're a member of MLS. So it may think that you're trying to pay a subscription for Cloud CMA. So the best way to do it is obviously go into the MLS And then on the MLS, right, when you're here, as an example, you can go to Cloud CMA. The other avenue is, because I know my format is a little different, you can go to the MLS and you can say, Simon, I don't know where Cloud CMA is. Go to links. Click on links. That'll take you down here. Just keep going all the way to the bottom. And then that's where you'll see Cloud CMA. Then you just click here. And that takes you right into Cloud CMA. All right.
So the RVM and the CMA is approximately the same?
No. So the question is RPR and Cloud CMA typically the same? Well, yes and no. The format is going to be a lot different than Cloud CMA. RPR, I believe, has more analytics to it than Cloud CMA. Cloud CMA is more the data of the MLS, where Cloud CMA, or excuse me, RPR goes into more of like the schools, the geographical area of the neighborhood. It goes into ages too as well. You know, how many people percentage wise work or retired. So it's a lot more thorough, but it doesn't really coincide with a lot of the components of what we're trying to create a comparable market analysis. This one is kind of geared when you're going on a listing appointment. The other one is more of a data. You can merge both of them, you know, but that would be just a lot of information. But, you know, everyone has their own preference on it as well. I recommend any platform that gives you the efficient report to get a listing. I'm not saying Cloud CMA is better than RPR or the MLS CMA. You know, use whatever tools. The goal is obviously to get the listing, right? And it's all based on data and, you know, what the opinion of value is.
The question is lot size and also the condition of the lot size is very important to you.
Yeah, so when you're comparing, and I'm not sure if you were here yesterday, I know Mark Hearn was here doing an appraisal. He was talking about, you know, how you analyze properties. Remember, it's again going back to the philosophy of apples to apples, right? You cannot compare a house that is a lot bigger or a lot that is a lot bigger. A 1 acre property to a 5,000 square lot is not comparable, right? This lot is going to be a lot less than a 1 acre property. So you have to distinguish and kind of modify, right? Because anyone can put a price on a home, but the question is it going to sell? And that's what, you know, you got to have really tight, what do you call it? Tight conditions to give a good opinion of value.
Because some of them are flat, some of them is something that is slippery.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables.
Has a tennis court or basketball court or something.
Yeah.
It's completely different.
Yeah, I mean, now you're going in a different parameter. Now it's like, you know, a pool versus not a pool. Do you think a pool is going to be worth more than a house that doesn't have a pool? Yeah, right. Yeah, of course. House with the pool is going to increase more value than a house that doesn't have a pool, right? So you have to distinguish. So when you're looking at characteristics, you want to find properties that have pools, and what are homes with pools selling for? Your question too about tennis, right? Tennis areas, right? Well, tennis typically is very far and few that you see homes with tennis areas, right? But do you see them? Yeah, you see a lot of them out in the west side of the Beverly Hills because they have the land for it, right? Well, those are very specific, right? Those are really unique situations that, you know, you can kind of weigh it out. Obviously, you're going to have to do a little bit of research and a little bit more homework to determine, okay, where do we need price this point, right? And remember, you can try to stick it to the wall, but the question is it going to stick, right? Meaning, is the property going to sell? And if not, then we have to do adjustments, you know, because we can put it at this price, but if it's not selling, we're not getting any offers, then we need to do an adjustment of price, right? And then that's when we start having really those conversations with the seller. Look, we had the property for 45 days. We haven't had one offer. I've done open houses and I'm not getting any good feedback, but it's just, they like the house, but it's just the price is too high. So then you need to know how to have those conversations to do a price reduction. So, all right. Any other questions on Zoom before we wrap it up? All right, team. Well, I appreciate you all. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and stop recording.